Parliament is getting ready to debate the new $853 billion budget next week. Yeah, but what's in it for me? I'm Kalila Reynolds, and I'll explain. This program is brought to you in partnership with the Ministry of Finance. First of all, I'm excited about this episode because it marks 1 year since I've been doing these videos on social media. My very first episode of Money Mondays JA was breaking down the budget and the various tax givebacks last year. Now that program has since evolved to focus more on the stock market, while What's in It for Me now focuses more on the economy. So here we go. Well, the government tabled the 2020-2021 budget in Parliament on Valentine's Day. It's $50 billion, or about 6% more than the original budget presented last year. The budget debate starts next week. Finance Minister Dr. Nigel Clark will open the debate on March 10. He'll be followed by the opposition spokesman and finance Mark Golding on March 12. Then the opposition leader, Dr. Peter Phillips, makes his contribution on March 17. Next up is the Prime Minister, Andrew Holness, on the 19th. And then it circles back to the finance minister, who closes the debate on March 24. And why does the finance minister get to go twice? Well, sometimes changes are made to the budget based on the feedback from the opposition and the public. Often in the finance minister's opening presentation, he'll throw something out there to see how the public reacts. Over the years, this has usually been some type of tax increase. If there's huge public backlash, some adjustments might be made, and the finance minister will wheel and come again in his closing presentation. Or it might just be that some of the proposals need refining or greater clarity, as happened last year with the tax cuts. Now, this is what the budget book looks like. It's huge, like phone book huge. We call it the big yellow book for obvious reasons. It's full of numbers telling you everything that the government plans to spend money on in the upcoming year. Now, in it, you have recurrent expenditure. Those are the expenses that recur, such as salaries. You have to pay those every month, the light bill, etc. And these recurring expenses make up the bulk of the budget. $221 billion is going to pay salaries to public sector workers. These are your teachers, your police officers, nurses, doctors, and office workers. Salaries alone take up a quarter of the budget. Then you have capital expenses. These are the government's projects, such as building a school or fixing a road. And these are pretty much one-off expenses. $74 billion has been allocated for those. There's also a breakdown, ministry by ministry, how much each ministry is going to spend and on what. As usual, the Ministry of Finance and the public sector gets the most, $411 billion, nearly half of the government spending. And that's largely because this includes the government's debt payments. They're spending $288 billion on debt. That's 1/3 of the entire budget. Let's talk about revenues, because the budget has two parts. There's the big book of expenditures, which I showed you, the spending plan, but there's also this little book, which outlines revenues. And that's where we're going to get the money from to pay for all these expenses. You can't come up with a plan to spend money without knowing how much money you expect to earn. So you have the estimates of expenditure and the estimates of revenue. In 2020-21, the government expects to earn $603 billion from taxes. That's where they get the bulk of their money from. GCT is by far the biggest revenue earner, followed by income tax. The government also gets grants from various international agencies, like the one I told you about last week, a €3 million grant for public financial management reform. That's essentially free money allocated for specific things. Revenues and grants together total $683 billion. Now clearly that's still not enough to pay for everything, since all our expenses come up to $853 billion. So they're borrowing the rest, $143 billion, and they also have some cash balances. That's money left over from last year, $25 billion. And that brings us to the total $853 billion that's needed. So what's in it for me? everything. The budget is the plan for how the government will spend your tax dollars on social services, projects, etc. By the way, you can check out the Citizen's Guide to the Budget to understand more, and you can download that from the Ministry of Finance's website. That's mof.gov.jm. It's really simple to read and understand and very nicely illustrated. That's it for this episode of What's in It for Me, brought to you in partnership with the Ministry of Finance. I'm Kalila Reynolds. The budget debate starts next week, and I'll be back with the breakdown.